You wake up and feel like you barely slept. You go through your morning routine, coffee, a quick breakfast, maybe some light stretching, but the heaviness is still there. It follows you into your day like a fog you can't shake off. You're not ill. You didn't stay up too late. Nothing is wrong on paper. But inside, there's a tiredness that seems to sit deeper than your muscles or your mind. It's like a weight pressing on your spirit. What if your tiredness isn't caused by what you're doing, but by what you're carrying? The kind of weight that doesn't show up in lab results. A kind of exhaustion that comes from invisible burdens, unresolved emotions, silent regrets, suppressed anger, or the pressure to hold everything together. These aren't obvious. They don't knock on your door. They settle in quietly. But over time, they affect how you breathe, how you sleep, how present you feel, and how much energy you have to live. You might be holding on to more than you realize. A mistake from years ago that you still secretly blame yourself for. Words you wanted to say but never did. People you try to please, even if it drains you. Expectations you've placed on yourself that don't even feel like yours anymore. All of this becomes a backpack of emotional weight you carry into every moment. And no amount of rest can restore you until that weight is lifted. If any of this resonates with you, pause for a moment and take a breath. Then, if you're ready to reclaim your energy, write in the comments, "I release what no longer belongs to me." Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what we're going to explore may help you lighten the load that's been quietly stealing your strength. So what is this invisible weight? It's not a single thought or feeling, but a tangle of emotional residue that builds over time. Imagine someone who always tries to be strong for others, never complains, never shows weakness. Outwardly, they look composed. Inwardly, they're holding in frustration, sadness, confusion. That tension doesn't go away. It embeds itself in the body and the nervous system. Muscles stay slightly contracted. The breath becomes shallow. The mind starts racing even when the body is still. This hidden tension consumes energy constantly. You may sit down to relax, but your mind is busy replaying a conversation you had 2 days ago. You may be on vacation, but you're worrying about disappointing someone when you return. And while you sleep, your body may still be bracing against tomorrow. Over time, this constant low-grade activation burns out your nervous system until tired becomes your baseline state. And then there's the pressure to hold on to roles you've outgrown. You've always been the caregiver, the achiever, the peacemaker. But part of you is tired of being that person. You want to let go, but you don't know who you'll be without it. So you keep playing the part. The performance costs you energy. Every day becomes more about survival than connection. Your smile becomes thinner, your patience shorter, and your tiredness grows heavier. Often we associate tiredness with lack of sleep, poor nutrition, or stress. And while those are real, they're just the surface. True fatigue often has an emotional root. It's the result of holding back tears too often, of biting your tongue when your soul wants to speak, of being in a life that doesn't fully match what your heart longs for. You might be doing everything right, but still feel like something inside you is slowly dimming. That's not physical fatigue. That's soul tiredness. There's a reason monks, sages, and wisdom traditions talk about unburdening the heart. They know that clarity, energy, and peace don't come from doing more, but from releasing what no longer needs to be carried. And yet in modern life, we rarely stop to ask, what am I holding that I no longer need? What have I accepted as mine that might actually belong to someone else's expectation, story, or fear? Sometimes this burden comes in the form of people-pleasing. You say yes when you want to say no. You avoid conflict not because you fear the outcome, but because you feel responsible for everyone's emotions. So you absorb them. You become the sponge. And soon, your inner world is full of everyone else's pain. You can't hear your own voice through the noise. Other times, it's the burden of regret. You replay moments from the past, not to learn from them, but to punish yourself. You think, if only I had said this, or I should have done that. But the past has already happened, and dragging it into the present every day doesn't change it. It only steals the energy you could be using to create something new. Grief is another heavy weight we often overlook. Not just grief from losing someone, but grief from the dreams that never came true, from the friendships that faded, from the parts of ourselves we had to let go of in order to survive. Grief unacknowledged becomes fatigue. It turns into a tightness in the chest, a heaviness behind the eyes, a slowness in the step. And then there's the burden of identity. You've told yourself a story for years. I'm not good enough. I have to work twice as hard. Rest is lazy. I can't trust anyone. That story shaped who you became, but it may no longer serve you. Yet you keep carrying it, like a coat that no longer fits because letting it go feels unfamiliar. But it also feels heavy. Let's go even deeper. Some of the weight you carry may not even be yours. If you grew up in a home where love was conditional, or where silence was safer than honesty, you may have internalized patterns that exhaust you as an adult. You may overextend yourself just to be liked. You may fear asking for help. You may feel guilty for resting. These inherited patterns silently burn your energy until your body screams for a pause. And what do most people do in response? They push harder, drink more coffee, chase motivation, try a new productivity hack. But the answer isn't to speed up, it's to stop and ask, what am I carrying that I never chose? What can I gently put down? This question isn't just spiritual, it's deeply practical. Because the moment you stop trying to carry everything, something surprising happens. Your energy begins to return. Your breath deepens. Your shoulders drop. You begin to notice how tired you were only when you feel what rest is supposed to feel like. This isn't about abandoning responsibility. It's about discerning what's truly yours to carry and what you've unconsciously taken on out of habit, fear, or inherited expectation. Real rest doesn't just come from sleep. It comes from letting go of inner noise. It comes from making peace with your story, and from giving yourself permission to stop performing for a world that's too distracted to notice how heavy your heart has become. There's a kind of stillness you've probably forgotten. Not the stillness of sitting on the couch with your phone, but the kind of stillness that happens when your body and mind are no longer in resistance, when you're not fighting your feelings, when you're not pretending, when you're not planning or fixing or controlling, just being. That kind of stillness, when felt deeply, restores more energy than 10 hours of sleep, because it's a reunion with your soul. Let's talk about how to create this kind of rest. One practice begins with a simple question. What emotion am I avoiding right now? It might be sadness, it might be fear, it might be shame. Whatever it is, naming it creates space. Emotions don't drain us. Resisting them does. If you let yourself feel fully, without judgment or explanation, the feeling can move, and once it moves, it frees up the energy it was using to hide. Another practice is something monks call voluntary simplicity. Not just simplifying your schedule or your closet, but simplifying your mind. Letting go of the urge to fix everything. Noticing when your thoughts spiral into the past or the future, and gently returning to the now. When you stay close to the present moment, you don't waste energy trying to manage things that don't exist anymore or haven't happened yet. Sometimes, the most powerful shift happens when we stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What can I stop doing?" Maybe it's overthinking. Maybe it's apologizing for existing. Maybe it's saying yes out of guilt. Each small decision to stop draining habits restores a little bit of your life force, and over time, those bits add up. There's also a spiritual fatigue that comes from disconnection, from yourself, from meaning, from what you love. You might be functioning, performing, succeeding, but if your days lack soul, they will leave you exhausted. Soul exhaustion feels different from physical tiredness. You can't nap it away. It's the quiet ache of living too long in a way that doesn't reflect who you really are. Sometimes, this shows up in your home. The environment around you either restores or depletes your energy. If you're surrounded by clutter, noise, or objects that carry old emotional associations, you're more likely to feel weighed down. One of the simplest ways to reclaim energy is to gently remove what no longer reflects the life you want to live. Make space, not just physically, but emotionally, because energy flows where attention goes. And if your attention is always pulled backward, so is your energy. This isn't about perfection, it's about permission. Permission to choose peace over pressure, stillness over speed, authenticity over performance, rest over resentment. When you give yourself permission to feel what's real, you stop spending energy on keeping up appearances. And that alone can restore more vitality than any diet or supplement ever could. If you're wondering where to begin, start small. Begin your day with silence, even 2 minutes of it. Not to think, not to plan, just to be. Sit with your breath. Feel your body. Let your mind wander without needing to fix it. And if emotions arise, let them. That silence, if you let it, will reveal what's really been weighing you down. This is also why spiritual teachers emphasize presence. Not because it sounds good, but because presence returns your energy to you. When you're fully here, you're not split between 1,000 mental tabs. You're not arguing with the past. You're not rehearsing the future. You are alive, whole, and free. That's when energy begins to rise again. Not from doing more, but from finally stopping the drain. And remember, emotional honesty is not weakness. It's strength. Naming your truth, even silently, is like unlocking a door inside yourself. You no longer have to hide. And what once felt like a burden begins to feel like wisdom. Because now you see the weight not as something to fight, but something to release. Let's talk briefly about relationships. Energy doesn't just come from within, it's shaped by who you allow near you. If you're always surrounded by people who take more than they give, who expect you to carry their pain while ignoring yours, it will drain you. You're not tired because something's wrong with you. You're tired because you've been overgiving without nourishment. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone. That feeling is data. Protect your energy like it matters, because it does. At this point, you might be wondering if this kind of spiritual exhaustion ever really goes away. The truth is, it doesn't disappear in a day, but it dissolves gradually, with each moment of truth-telling, each breath of stillness, each step away from what drains you and toward what restores you. Healing doesn't always look like transformation. Sometimes it looks like less tension, a softer breath, a little more room inside your chest. Let's explore one more layer. The beliefs that silently control how much energy you allow yourself to have. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that rest has to be earned, that unless you're exhausted, you don't deserve a break, that unless you're struggling, you're not doing enough. These beliefs are inherited from generations that survived through hardship, but they don't serve you now. You can live with gentleness. You can work with flow. You can be enough without exhaustion. The paradox is this: the moment you stop proving your worth through fatigue is the moment your energy begins to return. Because now, your worth is not conditional. It's not tied to your productivity. It's not measured by how much you carry. It's something you remember, not something you earn. Let's now go deeper into the unseen layers of how this fatigue has woven itself into your body and spirit. Some of the tiredness you carry isn't even yours. It belongs to the voices of the past, the family member who never rested, the caregiver who expected too much, the teacher who equated silence with laziness. These imprints became part of your nervous system, teaching you to push through instead of pause. Your energy isn't broken, it's just been misdirected towards survival instead of well-being. There's a form of internal tension that feels like being on all the time, like you're bracing yourself even when nothing is happening. This tension can stem from unresolved grief, unspoken anger, or the subtle belief that you're not safe to simply exist. The nervous system doesn't rest when it doesn't feel safe. So if your mind is constantly running, your body stays in defense mode. And when your body defends all day, no amount of sleep can fully repair that drain. This is why deep rest requires inner safety. And inner safety comes from truth. When you stop pretending, when you allow yourself to say, "I'm not okay," or "I'm carrying too much," you create space. You begin to build an internal environment where rest is allowed, where calm isn't something to earn but something to return to, because clarity is born not from forcing answers, but from creating stillness long enough to hear your own soul again. Let's also talk about energy leaks in your daily life. Often they're not dramatic, they're subtle. A drawer you never organized, a message you've been avoiding, a decision you refuse to make. Each one holds a little of your attention, and attention is energy. When you leave too many things undone, you create a background hum of anxiety that never really goes away. It's not about doing everything. It's about clearing the things that quietly sap your peace. There's also an overlooked truth. Physical fatigue is sometimes a disguise for emotional or spiritual depletion. You may believe you're just tired from errands or work, but beneath the surface, you're weary from a lack of meaning, from giving your days to things that don't nourish you, from walking paths that aren't yours. That kind of tiredness whispers, "There must be more than this." And that whisper isn't weakness, it's a spiritual signal. Now let's return to the body. Your posture, breath, and pace all reflect your inner state. When you're carrying invisible burdens, your body tenses to match them. Shoulders rise, jaw clenches, breath shortens. You don't just feel tired, you look and move like you are. But if you soften your body, if you allow it to move slowly and breathe deeply, something powerful happens. Your mind follows. You begin to inhabit your life instead of rushing through it. One practice to invite this shift is a nightly ritual of release. Before bed, sit quietly, place your hand over your heart, and ask, "What can I lay down for tonight?" It might be a worry. It might be someone else's expectations. It might be your own harsh self-talk. Name it. Then imagine placing it down beside you, like a heavy bag. You don't have to throw it away. Just let it rest. You can pick it up tomorrow if needed. But tonight, you're allowed to be light. And now, let's talk about spiritual clarity. Many people chase clarity as if it's a destination, but true clarity isn't found in figuring everything out. It's found in quieting the noise. When your inner world is cluttered with judgment, pressure, comparison, and guilt, you can't hear the voice of your soul. But when you remove those layers, what remains is truth. Gentle, simple, steady. Clarity is not always a lightning bolt. Sometimes it's the absence of confusion. This is why spiritual teachers often return to simplicity. The less you carry, the clearer you become. The fewer masks you wear, the more energy you reclaim. The less you force, the more naturally your life begins to move. Tiredness fades not because your life gets easier, but because you no longer drain yourself trying to be someone you're not. Before we close, let's return to the idea of invisible weight. It's not about blaming yourself for carrying it. You were taught to. But now you have the choice to set it down. That choice doesn't require a dramatic moment. It begins with awareness, with noticing, with giving yourself permission to rest without guilt, to feel without judgment, to live without overexerting your soul for approval. If you've made it this far, you're already doing the work. You're remembering what your spirit has always known. Energy isn't created by doing more. It's restored by being more of who you are. And that version of you is not tired. That version is free. So take this final moment to breathe deeply. Let go of the tension in your shoulders. Relax your jaw, unclench your hands, and just be. That quiet presence inside you, that's your true source of energy. If this message has spoken to you, write in the comments, "I release what no longer belongs to me." Your words matter. They anchor your intention. And by sharing them, you help others remember that they too are allowed to let go. Please also like this video and subscribe to the channel for more reflections on inner peace, energy, and authentic living. When you share this, you help someone else breathe easier, even if just for a moment. Because in the end, that's what we're all searching for. Not more to do, but more of ourselves to come home to.